The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
What's happening? What's the matter with everyone? Why do I hear sounds of weeping and mourning?
What do you mean? Why are we crying? Where have you been? Nakhaz, that scoundrel, said he's gonna gouge out those guys' eyes and kill them. What are we gonna do?
What? Okay. This is what will be done to the oxen of anyone who does not follow Saul and Samuel. Gather the men. Together we have a count of 330,000. Now call my messengers. Say to the men of Jabesh Gilead, by the time the sun is hot tomorrow, you will be rescued.
This week we are focusing on 1 Samuel chapters 11 and 12. The Israelites wanted an earthly king, someone who can round up the troops and wage war against the other Canaanite kings. And you know what? They received just that. In this episode, we will see how the newly anointed king reacts when he hears a group of his people are in danger. As always, be blessed and enjoy.
All right, welcome back to another episode of a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. We definitely appreciate everyone who tunes in on a weekly basis, and we definitely appreciate you guys who don't tune in on a weekly basis. If this is your first time, hopefully you guys enjoy. Hopefully everyone had a great week out there. I know weeks be hard, but we made it through another week. God is being great to us. Praying for those who are affected by any type of sickness or wars or whatever else people got going on in their daily lives. We know we all go through our struggles and our tribulations. And that brings me to our weekly thought. Hey, so it's been dawned on me this week. So I just was thinking about Romans 8:28, where it says, and we know that all things, that we know in all things, God works together for the good for those who love him according to his purpose. And it says in all things, to the good and the bad. And if you could zoom out and you read the beginning of Romans 8, it talks about the suffering that we would go through as servants of the Lord. And to me, that's important because a lot of people preach nowadays, and when you follow God, it's all sunshine and rainbows. Nothing bad's going to come your way. You sow a seed and you're going to get blessed abundantly. And whereas, certain parts of that is true, but if you really read the Bible, you really start to see that following God is not going to be an easy road because the enemy comes after you. So there are times you will suffer. There are times that you will go through some hard times. And what was the beatitude again? I can't remember the one, but like, blessed are those who persecute for my name's sake, persecuted for my name's sake, or something to that effect. I probably should have that written down for a time, but yeah. I just want people to really like be encouraged because no matter what you're going through, no matter what it might be a valley for you right now, And it might be something that you can't see right now, that it's, maybe in a week from now, in a month from now, maybe it might even be 5 years from now when you're reflecting back at this moment. You'll be like, you know what? Thank God I went through that. And, it might be a testimony that you may have to tell someone later on down the line so that they might have hope, or they might be encouraged, or they might grow their faith. So no matter what, in all things, we know that works for the good for those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. So that's just my thought for that, for like this week. Like, just keep on keeping on, keep on the good fight, keep on being encouraged, keep on having faith, and just know that God is on your side. And even if you can't see it, he has a plan for you, no matter what that plan may be.
Amen. Matthew 5, verse 10. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven.
I was close.
Yep.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the actual verse. But yeah. So that's that. And to me too, like, the next thing, like, what we got to realize, and we've said this a lot in the podcast, and to me, we got to realize sometimes when some things we want, because some things we want might not always be in God's will for us. And so, like, sometimes we self-inflict our own valley sometimes, because sometimes God gives us an out and we don't take the out. Sometimes God shows us a sign and when we disregard the sign. And AC, you want to say something?
No, I feel like I ain't trying to rush along your point or nothing, but I feel like that's what's happening. That's what's happening in the chapter that we're about to read. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the things that we want, it just ain't in our ain't in God's plan for us. You understand what I'm saying? And as we go throughout this episode, we're gonna see it's blatantly clear it wasn't in God's plan for the Israelites to get a certain thing. But I also feel the same way in my life. I feel like I just lost something, like a part of me, bro, because I don't create nothing anymore. I mean, granted, we create this podcast, you know what I'm saying? But this isn't something that I invested as much time as, like, my music. You know what I mean? Like, I find myself trying to do gospel music, but I'm not a fan of that, making that form of music. Just to be frank, bro, like, I listen to gospel music in a mindset of worship, but I never situated my mind to creating gospel music. Like, when I listen to rap or dancehall, it was like something was getting downloaded in my mind. It was like a new template. Like, oh, this is how they do this. Like I breaking this down in my mind. I never do that with gospel because, like, to me, gospel take even more talent than the average music. Like, not like I thrive over creativity. You understand what I'm saying? But a lot of times with gospel music, like, they have extreme vocalists. Like, these, like, some of the best singers in the world, some of the best musicians. All these people come together to make a gospel song. But the path I was on, it wasn't really thriving on gift, but unless your gift was creativity. You see what I'm saying? Like, how you can use your voice, not having the best voice or whatever. But even right now, bro, I don't feel like God. I'm not saying that it's wrong to make secular music, because I personally don't believe that, because at the end of the day, people, right, dog, a lot of people have secular jobs, bro, just period. Like, like, I'm an accountant. I work for a faith-based organization, but other than that, I can work for a secular organization, but I still do an accountant. But I don't personally even see how my work is ministry, apart from the fact that my work is for a company that involves themselves in ministry. You see what I'm saying? But what I'm doing literally isn't, I don't feel like it's bringing me any closer to Christ. That's my personal belief.
My job don't.
Yeah, right. So if someone disagrees with me, that I accept your opinion, but I don't feel like what I'm doing, day-to-day crunching numbers, I don't feel like that's to the honor and glory of God, just being frank, you know? But when I was creating, it definitely wasn't, but it was an outlet. You know, it's to me, I equated to someone who is a carpenter or a mechanic, or, like, not even a mechanic, but you fix cars in your spare time. Like, you know, like how people, they have their job and then they have their passion. You might build house of cards or collect cars or whatever. Like, these things what you're really into. creating and making music, expressing myself creatively. That's what I was really into. But I feel convicted against that. And I'm not prepared to fight my convictions. But then at the same time, I don't even know why, bro. I feel like God might be telling me, why would you waste your time building a rap career at the expense of your soul? Or why are you wasting your time building like a dancehall, whatever career when I need you here? We used to make the joke all the time. Levites couldn't go to war, bro. But if you was a strong man born in the tribe of Levite, you would just be sitting around like, I don't want to be burning the incense in the temple, bro. I want to fight. You know what I mean? Like, I want to fight, bro. Like, this is physically what I was born to do. But at the end of the day, that ain't what God calling you to do. You see what I'm saying? And so that's, to me, that's my perception of the point which you was making, but you can drive it on because I kind of hijack your point just now.
No, man, it's good. It's good. I mean, like, I feel like that's just really what it is. Because, and we come to this crossroad in life where we have to make a decision. I think that's really what I was trying to get to. Like, we come to this crossroad in life where we have to make a decision, and you kind of eloquently stated, like, through your own personal experience. Because God, when he created us in his divine wisdom, he gave us free will because he wants us to serve him out of free will. There's naturally things when you're a willed being that you are going to want for yourself. And what you want for yourself doesn't always align for what God knows is best for you. And as a willed being, guess what? We still have a choice to make when we come to these crossroads. And oftentimes, we choose what we want, regardless of the consequences, because you know why? We want it. And this is going to tie into what we're going to see happen in the episode, in our reading for this week. But in a perfect world, in a perfect scenario, our will should align with God's will as we submit to him and learn his plan for us. And then we both would be operating in harmony and unity along with God's will. But when we have something that we're super passionate about, we just want it. Like, it might even be passionate, it just be selfish desires. And 9 times out of 10, that's what it is, just selfish desires. We go after it. And then we find ourselves in a state where we probably shouldn't have been in because we chased something that we shouldn't have been chasing. I know, I've been there plenty of times. Shoot, I was there 2 weeks ago. You know what I'm saying? So again, I ain't perfect, but it's just knowing that, when you listen to God's voice, especially with your conviction with music, we hear the voice or we feel the conviction against something. When we feel that we have a choice to make, I could fight this conviction, or I could say, you know what, I'm going to listen to this conviction and just not do what go with the path that I'm feeling convicted for.
Mm-hmm. And like you say, self-inflicted, bro. A lot of this stuff, self-inflicted, bro.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been better if I think about people who have extreme addictions and they want to stop being addicted. And you would hear people say they wish they never did X, Y, Z.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? You might have did this out of your own free will, but you didn't know how this would grab a hold on your life and seriously affect your life. So a lot of the things that we have to break out of is 100% self-inflicted. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the fleshy battles that we have to fight when we try to live a pure life in Christ.
That's an absolute fact. So now what everyone's here for, 1 Samuel chapter 11. And so as a recap, in our last Samuel episode, which would have been last week, we talked about Saul, how he was actually crowned a king. So we see Samuel anointed Saul, and yeah, we got Saul as a king, and the children of Israel chose Saul even when they understood all the consequences that would be given to them if they actually chose a king. But they still went with it. And again, we see the nation of Israel went along with what they wanted, irregardless of what God's plan for them were. They had their hearts made up. They had their mindset that they wanted a king, and they went with the option of getting a king. And we're going to talk more about it again in this episode because some of those elements repeat themselves with Samuel talking. But we see again how our own wills, when they're not aligned with God's, how they can come back and bite us. Mm. And I know we've been exploring this theme from when they left Egypt, how their own selfish wills don't align with what God wants, and leads to their downfall. I don't want to say destruction, but it's ultimately that's what it is.
Mhm.
And so, man, I left anything out like on a overall recap you could add if you feel like something else should be like stated.
I don't know, but basically, the Israelites wanted a king. They got a king. You understand what I'm saying? And so now we get to see the first, I don't know, orders of business that Saul actually got to do as king.
So we have Nakhaz, so reading from chapter 11, verse 1. Nakhaz, who's interestingly, his name means serpent or snake in Hebrew. So Nakhaz, serpent, snake, the Ammonite, went up and besieged Jabesh Gilead. And all the men of Jabesh said to him, make a treaty with us and we will be subject to you. So right off the gate, we see this Ammonite man, not even a king or anything like that. This Ammonite man went up and say, hey, I have my men of besieging the city. And we see here the men of God, I shouldn't say men of God, but the children of Israel in this town in Jabesh Gilead, instantly said, we need to make a treaty with you and we'll be subject to you. Like, they ain't cry out to God. They ain't do none of that stuff that you would think they probably should do. They're like, let's just make a treaty with you.
Can't beat them, join them.
Can't beat them, we'll be subject to you. And so, but Nahash the Ammonite replied, I'll make a treaty with you only on one condition, that I gouge out the right eye of every one of you, and so bring disgrace in all Israel.
So allow me to put a pin in that, right?
Go for it.
So I don't know if this applies to all translations of the Bible, but in verse 1, there is a subtext for Nahash.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, now Nahash, king of the Amorites, oppressed the Gadites and Reubenites severely. He gouged out all their right eyes and struck terror and dread in Israel. Not a man remained among the Israelites beyond the Jordan whose right eye was not gouged out by Nahash, king of the Ammonites. Right. Except that 7,000 men fled from the Ammonites and entered Jabesh Gilead about a month later. So that's a little bit of context. Pre-context surrounding what's happening now. And this is based on the Dead Sea Scrolls is saying.
Makes sense. Add some more context. We should talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls one of these days.
Yeah, one of these days. I ain't ready for it yet, but we can talk about it.
So now we see Nahash, who's the king of the Ammonites. Would you think, like, my question to you is, would you think was this problem with gouging out people's eyes?
No, he disrespectful, bro.
I think it's a show of power.
That's what I'm saying. Like the thing about gouging out the eyes, this remind me of something that a king do later on in this book, where you just trying to humiliate the people of the town. You know, so it is a power thing, but it's like at the same time, you make a physical change to these people. And so everyone always can remember what happened if you mess with me or what I capable of doing just for no reason. That's what I doing to you. So it's definitely a power thing. But I think that's so evil, bro. You already conquered these people and now you want to humiliate them.
That's why he's a snake.
Yeah.
That's why he's a snake. And then too is like, you guys would just be useless in battle because, I mean, when you're missing an eye, your depth perception is off.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you have an instant handicap if y'all ever was to come and fight me now. And backing up to your points too, it's just a show of power. Again, like everyone in Israel is going to be almost demoralized when they look at you guys because they know, yeah, King Nahash got them. Good. And are y'all purposely subjecting yourself to this if y'all make this treaty? But I guess losing an eye better than keeping your life.
Right.
It's a weird trade-off. I know, I understand. Anyway, I was going to say something else, going to open a can of worms, so we don't need on this podcast right now.
They're basically saying they won't pick their poison.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked like, bro, this the only way I'll do a treaty. So it's like, in order to get a treaty, I got to do to y'all what I was going to do to y'all anyway.
Okay. Anyway, yeah. So in verse 3, the elders of Jabesh said to him, give us 7 days so we can send messengers throughout Israel. If no one comes to rescue us, we will surrender to you. And again, we see how self-confident this king was to even allow them 7 days to make this treaty.
I just like they have such manners and they're so honorable with these rules.
I just think he knew the state of Israel at this point. Because again, this is still the point in Israel where everyone doing what's right in their own eyes, even though they did have Samuel as their leader, so they was a little bit better. But who knows how united they really were at this point? Because I feel like this just might have been like a bunch of states who just doing their own thing and not really united under a king yet, even for better or worse that might be. I just don't think they're just united under like one single banner yet. And I think these guys are just trying to like buy time. Because again, they didn't cry out to God or nothing. And we're going to see the other people's reactions when they got the message, but it was like, we just baiting the water. We pray someone come. We ain't really expecting no one to come. But hey, it's worth a shot.
Because who could just dedicate their eye for the sake of a treaty, bro? Like, let me explore all my options first before I commit to giving you my eye just for the sake of peace.
Exactly. And the king was like, bro, I could beat y'all clearly because y'all just surrendering. And I don't think no one else going to come and fight me, because why, if we go back to the original verse 1 from the Dead Sea Scrolls, why no one come and help y'all to begin with?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all flee to this city. So I already know I have the upper hand. So y'all want 7 more days? Y'all just prolonging the inevitable? Sure, let's go. I'll play along. I got time.
I would be so mad, bro, if somebody take my eye out, bro. I'd be so mad, bro. Like, I just thinking about how these men, because it's everyone except for that 7,000 men. They had to go back to their wife and their family and thing, bro. How's your day, honey? Anyway, I ain't even trying to be funny no more, right? But bro, that's just psychological warfare.
Yeah. Yeah. That's literally messing with the Israelites' minds. It's not like you establishing your dominance over them.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the messengers came from reading from verse 4, came to Gibeah of Saul and reported these terms to the people, they all wept aloud. Just then Saul was returning from the fields behind his oxen, and he asked, "What is wrong with everyone? Why are they weeping?" Then they repeated to him what the man of Jabesh had said. So here we see Saul, who was just anointed as king, to your point, pre-port, was just in the fields working like he wasn't king.
Yeah.
Like still doing regular, non-kingly, I'm just a regular guy activities.
He said the money ain't not money, just like figuratively. The money ain't gonna change him. The fame.
Oh, ain't gonna change him.
And the fame ain't gonna change him.
Yeah. But it's like going back to like our point last week. It just shows the character of Saul at this point. Like he wasn't really power hungry. He wasn't the money and the fame ain't gonna change me. He was still the humble Saul who was hiding when the crowd gathered to even anoint him as king. This is still the same guy at this point. He wasn't corrupted by any power, fame, wealth, none of that stuff. He was still a humble guy, literally working in the fields. Like, you're the king. I mean, like, even though we haven't really covered kings in the Bible so far, just from our basic knowledge of kings, from when you're born as a royal, even though he wasn't born as a royal, but if you're a royal, bro, you have people, you have servants, you have all this stuff. You don't even have to button your own shirt. I realized the king and queen, and the princes that was with them to put on their own clothes. I was like, what? Is someone wakes up in the anyway and say I'm gonna clothe the queen? What? I don't know if that's disrespectful to say. I'm like, bro, you guys are regular humans. But anyway, I digress.
But anyway, the point of the matter is Saul wasn't exercising any of the liberties that came with being king. It seems like.
No, yeah, he really wasn't. Which speaks to his character. Like it really speaks to his character up to this point. Mm-hmm. And so we see when Saul heard their words, everyone again was crying, weeping aloud. No one thought to, consult God about this or anything. But when Saul heard their words, the Spirit of God came powerfully upon him, and he burned with anger. Sounds similar to another guy that we read about a book ago. And so we see Saul took a pair of oxen, cut them into pieces, and sent the pieces by messengers throughout Israel, proclaiming, "This is what will be done to the oxen of anyone who does not follow Saul and Samuel." Then the terror of the Lord fell on the people, and they came out together as one. When Saul mustered them at Bezek, the men of Israel numbered 300,000. And those and those of Judah, 30,000.
I just don't know why they. So it appears that they didn't, like, they just was crying, bro. They didn't go on to their king. Like you said, they didn't go to God, right? But I'm like, who did y'all go, bro? If y'all went to human beings first, right? Why y'all ain't gone to your king or even Samuel? Like, I don't know if they went to Samuel or not, but the way how Saul reacts, it makes me feel like they completely just was like, oh yeah, we doomed. You know, like they was already throwing in the flag. They was weeping. And this guy, right? He was like, yeah, well, we just gonna lose our eye. And Saul coming through like, why? What's happening? He coming through like, I don't even know what's going on, as if nobody told him.
No one. He was in the fields. He wasn't there when the message came.
So all right, now check this out, right? We ain't shocked that they didn't consult God, because there's multiple books they go on from Joshua when they go on to fight AI. That time we see where they just is go and don't consult God. Like that's how it appeared from then, right? Even probably before that. But now it's like they just don't consult anybody, bro. They just go and do what they want to do, bro. Y'all ask for this king, and now y'all got the king, and the king got to find out after everybody else was happening, you know?
Yeah, and again, it still shows that Saul wasn't actively in the role of a king yet, because naturally, if there's an attack on any one of your providences in your kingdom against a rival nation, through your network, you would be the first to know. So it shows he doesn't have any form of a government set up yet with rulers or anything like that. So
right. However, and I don't remember if it's this chapter or next chapter, it lead me to believe that Nahash was a problem before Saul. You see what I'm saying? But we can explore that when we get there. Yeah.
And still, though, I'm like, how much of this ox was there to go around to send all these people?
True.
It's a lot of people. Yeah. Anyway, they told the messengers who had come, say to the men of Jabesh Gilead, by this time the sun set, the sun is hot tomorrow, you will be rescued. When the messengers went and reported this to the man of Jabesh, they were elated. So I'm like, so the Ammonite king just was, I guess, letting the messengers go freely?
I was wondering that too. I was like, so y'all accepting guests, and you see what I'm saying? Like they just coming in and out, spreading messages that's not in your favor, and then
you don't even really know the message. Yeah, and I'm like, but what's really happening?
Right.
And so they said to the Ammonites, tomorrow we will surrender to you, and you will do with us whatever you like. So we see they knew they were about to be rescued. So they told the king and the rest of the Ammonites, tomorrow, we'll surrender to you. So I guess come out in the fields, whatever, and you could do to us whatever you want. So you could gouge out our eyes or whatever. So we see the next day, Saul separated his men into 3 divisions. During the last watch of the night, they broke into the camp of the Amorites and slaughtered them until the heat of the day. That's a lot of slaughtering.
So he sneaked them.
Yeah, sneak attack.
Yeah, during the last watch of the night. Third shift.
People tired.
Deep in sleep. Yeah. They can get their things, bro. You can't be sleeping that heavy when you're waging war on people and things, bro.
But this again shows like he didn't expect the Israelites to unite. Think about, bro, it's like a 300,000 army coming at you. Well, 330,000 army of armed people.
And God on their side, bro.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, they ain't gonna lose. We see what God do with 300.
Oh, yeah.
So, those who survived were scattered so that no 2 of them were left together. So then the people said to Samuel, who was it that asked, shall Saul reign over us? Turn these men over to us so that we may put them to death. So now we see these people were so overwhelmed with the leadership of Saul to them in battle. They were like, oh, yeah, people didn't want him as king. Oh, show us them. No, we're going to deal with them because this guy is surely our king. That's how I interpret it, at least.
No, they're like, yeah. What y'all was saying now, people that say that. Like, when it get competitive, what you were saying, you were saying something? Like, no, bring all the people who's talking down on Saul. But I actually was thinking about that even more, like, after the episode, like, I don't know, bro. Like, I would imagine that there would be people, because no matter who is in power, there's always people who is not happy about it, you know? And then consider there may have been people who felt that my reputation and my feats make me worthy or deserving to be king. You see what I'm saying? So like naturally, I would expect some people to be salty by Saul or this random person seemingly being chosen. You know?
I agree. Yeah. Like you're gonna have those dissenters.
Yeah, I'm saying it right. I'm not saying it right, but when you all things considered, bro, this guy, he didn't expect to be king. That shows me that he wasn't prepared to be king or even really too concerned about being king. But the Lord searched all of Egypt and found that he was the most fitting person to be king. So
Israel?
He come up out of
Egypt.
Why I say that? Israel, all of Israel. I saw that he was the most fitting to be king. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we see Saul reply in very classy fashion to these people.
No one will be put to death today, for to this day the Lord has rescued Israel. Then Samuel said to the people, "Come, let us go to Gilgal, and there renew the kingship." So that all people went to Gilgal and made Saul king in the presence of the Lord. There they sacrificed fellowship offerings before the Lord, and Saul and all the Israelites held a great celebration.
What you think it means to renew the kingship?
Because I think the crowd wasn't that big, or like he was just anointed. I guess they saying like, okay, now you actually going to be performing in the role of a king. I guess like you actually going to start doing the king, like affirm the anointment. Because we've seen other people who it's a while before you're anointed, sometimes before you actually serve as a king.
Right.
So I guess they're saying, okay, now we're going to renew this and you actually going to be like, fulfilling your role as a king. Like we know you were the chosen one, but now, okay, it's time for you to start acting. Your time has come.
So he basically get the offer letter already, but now he started his first day at the work.
Yeah.
Orientation.
Exactly. So in verse 12 now, we see Samuel said to all Israel, "Again, I have listened to everything you said to me and have set a king over you. Now you have a king as your leader. As for me, I am old and gray, and my sons are here with you. I have been your leader from my youth until this day. Here I stand. Testify against me in the presence of the Lord and his anointed. Whose ox have I taken? Whose donkey have I taken? Whom have I cheated? Whom have I oppressed? From whose hand have I accepted a bribe to make me shut my eyes? If I have done any of these things, I will make it right." What do you think about that?
I think Samuel, he getting all his bars off, because I feel like perhaps, and I'm very open to being wrong, but this is just how I interpret it. So now, first of all, last episode, Saul was anointed, and then Saul and Samuel know that Saul is going to be king. However, they still cast lots, because in the presence of Israel, we need to see this as coming from God. So they cast lots. And to the crowd, it's like, this just happened at random, but this was already ordained by God, basically. And so now, this guy, he's king, but then nothing else, ain't nothing for him to do, per se, right? Because even during this time, especially, we know that kings was going to war, and that's what they wanted a king for. They said, give us a king so that we can war against blah, 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 right? And so now, this is a victory. And so this is a big celebration, and we have everyone's attention. And so even the naysayers, everyone benefits from this. And now we have your attention. And now I have to actually make it clear exactly what is going on from the perspective of the high priest / prophet / judge perspective to the people of Israel. So the reason why the Israelites have a king now is because while Samuel was very much in power, they complained that they want to take a different direction, and who leads them? Samuel take it personally, right? And so now this, Rachel, to answer your question, I just wanted to provide some background as to how I got here. This is Samuel continuing to explain why I am taking this personally, but not only me, God taking it personally as well. But we ain't get to God yet. He first off say, what I do you, bro? Did I do this to you? Was I a bot? He basically wanted them to admit that he did nothing wrong during his time in power.
Mm-hmm.
And he say he lists off multiple ways how people have abused power, right? And he say, hey, tell me now, did I do any of this to you? You know, and they replied that he didn't. But Samuel have to set the stage now because like the way y'all acting, y'all was treating me or y'all are moving forward as if y'all had been being led by crooks. Y'all had oppressive leaders or people who was accepting bribes and stealing and things like that. But y'all had righteous leaders and yet y'all grumble and complain.
Mm-hmm.
You have any thoughts on it?
I mean, my thoughts was still too like pretty much what you were saying. And then also like, hey, from my perspective, yeah, have I done any of these things you guys know? Someone say yes, and like especially say I'll make it right. I think for me, I internalized that. I was also saying, guess what? If y'all feel like I even did something wrong with you, let me know. Because I know I ain't do nothing wrong, but you know, sometimes even though you can't change how people feel, like you might take somebody out of context. Let me know. I'll make it right. If you even feel I wrong you, if you even feel like I close my eyes, oh, you didn't see what Johnny do over there, and you know, oh, that's you feel. Let me know. Like let me know how all of y'all feeling. But you see, no one in the whole crowd of Israel could have said anything about him. We see in verse 4, you have not cheated or oppressed us, they said. You have not taken anything from anyone's hand. So again, they know Samuel was a righteous leader, was better than all the leaders they had up to that point, was fulfilling his duties as a high priest and a judge and a leader. Like he was doing a lot. And so again, they know he was legit. He was legit.
And I feel like also, as I'm reading this right now, I feel like legit or not, this needed to be on record.
Mm-hmm.
Your last judge, I need this to be a common consensus. Would note I left this on. Because even when we read Chronicles and Kings, they'd be like, as for all that King so-and-so did, King Hezekiah did, is it not written in the annals of the kings? You understand what I'm saying? So,
and to your point too, I don't know if you was getting here, so my bad for cutting you off.
Mm-hmm.
When this does go wrong, as an inevitably will, y'all can't come back to me and say, why did you give us this king?
I wasn't going there, but that's a good one too.
That's why, because like that's what I think it is too now. Because now y'all see what y'all had, and we like to your point, we gonna get to God too. Y'all see what y'all had, but through this all, y'all asked for this king, and you read Moses. We know how this going. He demands a prophet too, so he probably know where this is going. When this go wrong, I know y'all don't like to own up for nothing. Y'all can't come back to me and beg, why did you give us this king? No, y'all asked for this. After I told y'all all the consequences, y'all asked for this. So we can have this on record. You can go back to your point.
No. Yeah, we can have this on record. So it's multiple reasons, it's multiple benefits to documenting the reign of the leader. We can see it's no mix up. It's no mix up. I allow y'all to respond, and it's all of y'all and one of me. You understand what I'm saying? So it ain't y'all don't have nothing to even be. And I'm not a king, by the way. I'm a priest. You feel me? I'm a priest. I'm a prophet. And so y'all can be as brutally honest as y'all want to be. And then this is time of celebration too. So y'all don't have no incentive to feel to consider my feelings or anything like that, because everybody in high spirits and y'all have your king now. You see what I said? And so yeah, just for the record now, let's remember, what did I do? Tell me, and I can write this wrong because this is my last day as your leader, bro. Just let me know so we can end this on a good note and document everything that was a part of my reign as judge.
And so Samuel said to them, the Lord is witness against you, and also his anointed is his witness this day, that you have not found anything in my hand. He is witness, they said. And Samuel said to the people, it is the Lord who appointed Moses and Aaron and brought your ancestors out of Egypt. Now then, stand here, because I am going to confront you with evidence before the Lord as to all the righteous acts performed by the Lord for you and your ancestors. I read this and say, hey, this go deeper than you. This go beyond you. let me run through the history of how y'all get to this point again for you. Like, to me, it's almost eerily reminded, similar to Moses when he was about to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Let me run through a quick history of y'all so y'all can remember how y'all got here and how y'all got to this point. And again, we're going to see anyway.
Bro, you know they say, if you know where you're from, you know where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if you ever heard that phrase, bro. That's what Samuel basically trying to say, bro. Like he's trying to say, let me remind y'all of where y'all come from. And then guess what? Let's say he wasn't trying to say like this way y'all gonna end up, even though it was already prophesied what was gonna happen if you all have a king. I am telling you what y'all already gone through in hopes that y'all correct it. So everything y'all feeling now, I'm telling you, your ancestors have felt it before and it has not worked for them. But if you all do not know this, let me give you all a high-level synopsis of where you all come from.
Exactly. Like, hopefully you guys can realize a pattern from me recalling this history to you guys, and you guys could probably identify this pattern and come up with some solution that you don't find yourselves back at this point. But anyway, reading from verse 6, then Samuel said to the people, it is the Lord who appointed Moses and Aaron and your ancestors brought you up out of Egypt. Now then stand here, because I'm going to confront you with evidence before the Lord as to all the righteous acts performed by the Lord for you and your ancestors. Yeah, I read that, my bad. After Jacob entered Egypt, they cried to help for the Lord. And the Lord sent Moses and Aaron, who brought your ancestors out of Egypt and settled them in this place. But they forgot the Lord their God, so he sold them into the hand of Sisera, something we haven't heard in a while, the commander of the army of Hazor, and into the hands of the Philistines, and to the king of Moab, who fought against them. They cried out to the Lord and said, we have sinned, we have forsaken the Lord and served the Baals and Ashtoreths, but now deliver us from the hands of your enemies, we will serve you. The Lord sent Jerubbaal or Gideon, Barak, Jephthah, and Samuel. I like how Samson wasn't even mentioned, but that's no shade to Samson.
But hold on. If you look at, I don't know if you have a footnote right there.
Mm-hmm.
It says some Septuagint, I don't know how to pronounce that.
Septuagint manuscripts.
And Syri manuscripts. And anyway, they say Samson. Some call that Samson.
Oh, Samson. Okay, for Barak?
No, for Samuel.
For Samuel. Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Jephthah and Samson.
Jephthah and Samson. Okay, so we can start Samson side.
Yeah.
And he delivered you from the hands of your enemies all around you, so that you live safely. But when you saw that Nahash, king of the Ammonites, was moving against you, you said to me, now we want a king to rule over us, even though the Lord your God was your king. And here is the king you have chosen, and the one you asked me for. See, the Lord has sent you a king. If you fear the Lord and serve and obey him and do not rebel against his commands, and if you both, the king who reigns over you, follow the Lord, good. The Lord your God, good. But if you do not obey the Lord, and if you rebel against his commands, his hand will be against you, as it was your ancestors. Now then, stand still and see this great thing the Lord is about to do before your eyes. And before I get to verse 17, we see, again, a very good synopsis. This is definitely the full story, because we just went over like 3-4 books. But it's a good high-level view of what happened, because, really and truly, all these books was almost the same story over and over again in different forms. You guys rebelled. You cried out to God. God rose up a judge for you. We see it was Gideon, Barak, Jephthah, Samson. We had Deborah. We had Ehud. We had a bunch of them in Judges. And God delivered you from the hands of the enemies. Way back from when? From Egypt times, we see God was doing these works and wonders for you guys. But to Kazi's point, we see, Nahash was a problem for a while in verse 12. And now y'all forgot the whole history of everything that God has done for you guys. God was your king, but you said, no, we don't want the king. We want an earthly king. We need someone to rise up and fight against Nahash, because we don't have no one who could fight against Nahash. And quite frankly, God ain't doing the job for us. So yeah.
I like how the Bible just has answered questions that you would have. So consider this, right? The book of Samuel start off with Hannah talking about Samuel or whatever, right? But shortly after, we learned how the Hannah, the Philistines, was on the Israelites. And we remember the Philistines even from back from Samson time. You see, they saying like these people seem like they was a continual problem. And when Samuel became high priest ruler, he expelled the Philistines from tormenting the Israelites. And then shortly after, we see the Israelites was like, "Hey, we want a king." And it's like, bro, why, bro? Like y'all just get Samuel, who was successful after failed attempts, two failed attempts back to back towards the Philistine. Samuel years later come and defeat the Philistines. God defeated the Philistines under the leadership while Samuel was leading. And now you're like, we want a king. And I'm like, bro, so what is Samuel? And I get why Samuel was like, bro, God, you see how they reject me? and then God had to be like, no, they reject you, they reject me. You see what I'm saying? And now in context, you understand why God had to correct Samuel, because Samuel ain't failed. And so they saying they don't want Samuel no more, despite the fact that he didn't fail, right? But yeah, but they merely see Nahash approaching. Nahash ain't attacked nobody yet. When word get out that Nahash was moving against them, they say, hold on now, we need a king. We need a king. We don't got nobody to help us. You see what I'm saying? And so basically it's like they feared Nahash more than they feared the power of God. Like just period. You understand what I'm saying? And so now, in retrospect, the king who God gave y'all was inspired by God once again, and y'all defeated Nahash by the grace of God, right? But Samuel, like, bro, as happy as y'all is right now, I still don't want y'all to think, bro, it's because of y'all righteousness that this even happened. Because at the end of the day, this was inevitable to happen once y'all was relying on God anyway. This might have happened king or not, but this was gonna happen king or not, bro. You see what I'm saying? Because they under the leadership of Samuel, bro, they ain't fall off. Because when I see Nahash gouging out their eye and thing, I like, bro, what happened? It don't make sense, bro. Samuel is your leader. Why this happening? You see what I'm saying? But between the Philistines and Nahash,
Ammonites.
gouging out, yeah, right. Between the Philistines and the Ammonites, they all say, hey, we don't really trust God like that. You know what I mean? So they open themselves up. They put their guard down for being on one accord, united with God. They didn't even finish celebrating the Philistines yet. Solid. They was like, all right, nah, I know if God could beat this guy. Because you probably know what Nahash was doing in the land, bro. His reputation probably succeeded.
Yeah, I gouge you.
Right. Like he seemed like a cruel guy, you know? And so overall, yeah, they just get scared, and it was like, bro, we need a human.
We need a human.
As nonsensical as that sound, bro. Like we need a human.
And again, to like something we talked about last week, I wouldn't be comfortable being the first king up at this point. Like it just doesn't sound like, you know, a good position to be in.
Yeah.
Especially all this person like the prophet, this leader, essentially bashing your job, saying how much Israel are going to regret doing this thing. Like this is sinful act. You know, we gonna get to that. And so in verse 17, we see Samuel speaking now. It's no harvest now. I will call on the Lord to send thunder and rain, and you will realize what evil thing you did in the eyes of the Lord when you asked for a king. Then Samuel called on the Lord, and that same day the Lord sent thunder and rain. And all the people stood in awe of the Lord and Samuel. I'm like, this must have been some spectacular, frightful, scary thunder. I think like this. Can't have lightning without that. Can't have thunder without lightning.
Yeah, I think what also add to it is the fact that it probably don't rain like that
during harvest time, probably.
Yeah, during harvest. Because he's like, all right, it's harvest now. So to me, based on how I interpret this, it's like, y'all know it don't rain during this time. So now if it rain, y'all know this just similar to when Moses was like, you remember when Korah, they was rising up, they had the Korah rebellion, and Moses was like, bro, if God on my side, y'all can see a new thing happen. The earth go open up and swallow Korah and all of the evildoers who was really just murmuring against Moses. And that happened. So obviously we know that don't happen. The earth don't open up and then swallow people and close back up and things like that. You know what I mean? And so that's what this reminds me of. He's like, hey, it's harvest now. So if God approves of what I say and if God agrees with me, we can see rain happening during the harvest. And so I feel like that defies some odds.
And also something too, just from like a farming perspective, super heavy rains during harvest time could kill your crops as well. So it actually could ruin the crops by overwatering, soil erosion, all that kind of stuff. So it was like a next thing, like, yo, this super rain in an unideal time could be devastating to certain crops and farmers and that kind of stuff. But we see Samuel, so in verse 19, the people said to Samuel, pray to the Lord your God for your servants so that we will not die. For we have added to all our other sins the evil of asking for a king. So we see how grave this was. In verse 20, do not be afraid, Samuel replied. You have done all this evil. Yet do not turn away from the Lord, but serve the Lord with all your heart. Do not turn away after useless idols, for they can do you no good, nor can they rescue you, because they are useless. For the sake of his great name, the Lord will not reject his people, because the Lord was pleased to make you his own. As for me, far be it from me that I should sin against the Lord by failing to pray for you. And I will teach you the way that is good and right. But be sure to fear the Lord and serve him faithfully with all your heart. Consider what great things he has done for you. Yet, if you persist in doing evil, both you and your king will perish. And to me, it's still reminiscent of that, like the speech what Moses gave, even though it didn't come with all the blessings and the curses, because at the end of the day, you guys already know what that says. But I'm still echoing the most important parts here for your, I guess, remembrance. Don't worship idols. Don't turn to them. They can't do nothing for you. They ain't no good. They can't rescue you because they're useless. He called them useless twice. Like, hey, guys, these things are useless. Please do not turn away from them. And again, serve the Lord with all your heart and serve him faithfully, both you and your king. And guess what? If you guys don't, you will perish.
This also remind me, I don't know why, bro. Like just this monologue aspect remind me of the only son of Jerubbaal, Gideon, who survived against his other son, Abimelech. Was it Abimelech? I can't remember. His son was what his name was, bro. I can't remember, bro. I always just forget his name. But anyway, in the book of Judges, when he I think his name is Abimelech.
I'm trying to look at it now. Keep going to your point.
Anyway, but yeah, so the other brother of Abimelech, I think his name started with a J. I bad with names because we too deep in the Bible, bro. In Genesis, I was doing good. But anyway.
Was it Abimelech and Jair?
Right. So Abimelech and Jair. So I remember one to start with a J, and I remember Abimelech because it was another person in the Bible whose name was Abimelech. So Jair was basically saying, bro, if y'all do everything right, if the way y'all went about Abimelech's reign, then Abimelech will be your joy. But if not, then you all will perish. You understand what I'm saying? And so it's kind of a contrast because we already...
His brother was Jotham.
Okay,
Jair
Jotham
was the other judge, but it's Jotham. My bad.
Jotham. I wasn't really feeling too good about Jair, but I was like, it's someone a J, bro. I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, Jotham, sweet. So, so Samuel already establishing, bro, y'all already starting off on the wrong foot, right? But at the end of the day, it don't have to be all wrong. You see what I'm saying? Like, y'all can correct this. And I feel like that's a perfect theme with God, you know? You might have had a mistake. You understand what I'm saying? And this one mistake that you done, it could actually have lifelong, it could be a life-changing mistake of yours. You know, it could impact your life for the rest of your life. But at the end of the day, you know, that don't mean that you're going to be barricaded from God and that you can't get right. You know what I'm saying? And so So yeah, we can see that. We can see that with the Israelites, and they're wanting a king. They're demanding a king.
Yeah, I think it goes back to even like how we started the podcast kind of unknowingly, but again, it ties in perfectly. We have our will and we have God's will. We know God's will for these people definitely was, huh?
Oh,
God's will. Oh, my bad. I thought so. God's will for these people were definitely for God to be their sole king. They were, times of trouble. He would rise up prophets, judges to lead them, and they would have a different society, peculiar from all the other Canaanite nations. The people set in their hearts that they wanted a king, and that's powerful because like that was their will. That was their will. And you have a lot of Christians or people who even read the Bible who are not believers. They ask, like, why does God let things happen they know that is not in our best interest? Why shouldn't he let it happen? Is my rebuttal to that. Who would God be if he forced us to do what he wants?
and how conflicting of a conversation is that? You know what I'm saying? So like if literally God only used to make us do what he wants, it's like what type of God this is? Like what type of prison system this is, bro? Because you forcing me to, like I say, like if you was this a hypothetical situation. I don't know that this ever happened. If you was born to be, you wanted to do this one thing. You understand what I'm saying? But the Lord called you to do this other thing. And God make you do this other thing. It's like, bro, why serving this God if I don't even have a say, if I don't even have autonomy over my own decisions, bro, over my own body? You know what I mean? It's like Balaam, bro. Balaam wanted to curse the Israelites. So when we talk about Balaam, we always talk about him wanting to go to curse the Israelites. But it's the fact that he wanted to curse the Israelites would trip me out because God tell him go, and he keep trying to curse them. You keep trying to, but even after God make you bless them the first time, you keep trying, bro. You keep trying to curse them, bro. Like 3 times. You see what I'm saying? And so at the end of the day, a lot of times God allows us, and this was inspired by Ellen White. She was saying something along the lines of God allows us, he gives us, I can say he give us over to the thing, because that's kind of a different point, but
but that's what it says in Romans. But
right. But he allows us to do this fleshy thing that is not in his will in order for us to see the error and repent. You understand what I'm saying? So sometimes I can let you go. All right, I tell you don't touch that fire. All right, touch it. All right, you get burned. Now you understand why you was so wrong for touching that fire. I tell you, I was trying to protect you from all of that. You know what I'm saying? And so not sometimes. We have free will. The Lord blesses us with free will. He permits things. Sometimes he protects us from things. But if you press enough, the Lord, in our folly, sometimes we don't even understand this God blocking us, bro. Sometimes, bro, literally supernatural things can happen, bro. And we still fighting to get through to this. You know what I mean? Oh, I just want to do this. Bro, I have another story like the shoes, bro. I think it was either this week or last week. I did my wife a favor. And I was like, bro, you gotta, because we trying to do our diet thing or whatever. And, be accountability partners. And I like, bro, you gotta allow me to get some cheesecake now, because I help you put this desk together, for real. I put a desk together for her. And so it was days and I didn't get my cheesecake. And one day I was like, bro, I need that. I need that today, bro. You know how I'd go with me. I love cheesecake. I really do love cheesecake. And so I stopped by the Cheesecake Factory, but on the way there, it was a roadblock. Like the cops blocked. This was 5 p.m. on a weekday. The street was blocked off. And so I had to go the long way around to get the Cheesecake Factory. Just taking me out like 20 minutes because I got to fight traffic just to end up back where I first start and then take the long way to get the Cheesecake Factory.
Oh, boy.
On the way, I was like, anyway, I can find some productive things to do. I clean my car, type of thing. And after cleaning my car, I said, oh, I really deserve some cheesecake now. Bro, I felt something in me saying, bro, have self-control, bro. You have great goals. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's a sin to eat cheesecake. I wasn't being gluttonous. Maybe I was. I don't know. But I lack self-control in that way because this thing isn't good for me. I know this was going to be setting me back at least a day of my fitness goals, right? But you don't believe I got to the Cheesecake Factory and the one cheesecake I gone there for was sold out? It was sold out, man. I was smart, bro. I was smart because I was so content to get cheesecake, bro. I ended up getting this nasty cheesecake. It was nasty, bro. I was trying something new, bro. I was like, oh, man, now I'm more unfulfilled than I was when I started, bro, because it was an itch in me saying, well, you need to satisfy that cheesecake urge, bro. Exactly. But the Holy Spirit was telling me, bro, don't even waste your time doing this for multiple reasons. And I just like, bro, when I think about it, I like, bro, I had to fight traffic. I had to do a bunch of stuff just to get you to be disappointed. And regardless of why God was telling me don't get the cheesecake, if I had just not got the cheesecake, I would have been in a better situation. And I would have developed the muscles it would have taken me to have more self-control moving forward. If you give in every time you have an indulgence, bro, you never gonna have self-control, bro. You never gonna have that type of endurance if you just give in every time. You know?
Man, like...
And so...
Yeah, go for it. Oh,
no, I'm not understanding.
No, because I was gonna say I have a similar story, but I can save it for another time. But to me, it still goes, like, your story just shows, like, how we started the podcast, like, you're going to have the Holy Spirit whispering into your head, maybe this isn't a good idea. Maybe you should turn back. Maybe you shouldn't go this. And we still have a choice to make. We choose, we can listen to that conviction and say, you know what? Maybe I'll get the cheesecake another day. Maybe I'll do X, Y, and Z another day. I might not do it at all, but maybe I should just listen to this conviction. Or we can double down on what we want. We could double down on what our will is. And you know what? I want this king. I want this cheesecake. It might not be good for me. It might make me weak in certain areas, but guess what? Forget what else I'm feeling. I'm going after what I want. And like the Israelites, sometimes we find ourselves in compromising positions where we're in too deep and we have to go along with the circumstances, no matter what they may be. But I like how it ends. And like Nakhaz's point, his previous point too, we're not too far from God, even though we follow our own will, that way we can turn back. And he's always there willing to forgive us of our sins. He's always there willing to take us back. And he's always there willing to still be that good and awesome God that he always is to us, no matter what circumstances we do find ourselves in. But it's still important for us to make that choice, because at the end of the day, it all comes down to choices.
God remains undefeated in battle, no matter the foe. And as long as he is on Saul's side, Saul too will be undefeated. But is Saul also among the prophets? Will he put God's authority above his? We'll find out on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.